welcome to tonight's special program honoring the 2023 Fellow Awards. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dan Lewin. I'm the CEO and President of the Computer History Museum. Here at CHM, we have a strong vision for a human-centered digital world where technology serves humanity. And we think we're uniquely positioned to distill the key lessons of the past and help guide people from all walks of life to shape a better future today. Since our last Fellow Awards, we've been advancing our work to build that future. We've explored timely issues affecting all of us, like the perils and promise of AI for humanity, by featuring leading thinkers on our public education programs, such as Reid Hoffman, who was here just this week. To help us build trust and reliable information in news, we've been convening scholars, journalists, and thought leaders across the world. Watch for a dozen or more articles and companion videos, as well as a national survey with insights and concrete recommendations later this month. That'll come on our website. We've also added an array of women and BIPOC technologists and entrepreneurs to our collection and our digital content and in our events. And we've extended our global reach by meeting people around the world where they are through our online programming and digital initiatives. For example, we had an Art of Code initiative over the course of the last year where we celebrated transformative software. And over 20,000 downloads of source code products from Adobe, Apple, and Xerox PARC were downloaded. The impact has been overwhelmingly positive, so it's a terrific effort by the team. Our Open CHM project, some of you may know about that. We're steadily making progress to make our collections, our exhibits and programs, and other offerings more accessible to a global audience using technology. And with our laser focus on achieving operational excellence, we've done a lot of work during the pandemic. We've made a ton of progress establishing a strong foundation to build this institution into a sustainable institution, and that has a lot to do with fundraising, so thanks to many of you. All of these achievements and many more help us fulfill our mission, which is to decode technology, its computing past, digital present, and the future impact on humanity. And tonight is one of the most important ways we do that, by honoring three amazing people. Because people are at the heart of the story of technology and our world, and people are the essence of the CHM Fellow Awards. So, who are these computing pioneers and visionaries we celebrate? Let's first look back at some of the 95 fellows we have celebrated over the past 3 decades. We have a video.
In the words of Dr. Katherine Johnson, and I quote, "You are providing a platform for so many to share their story, and together we are rewriting history in a way that allows everyone to see their place."
For more than 3 decades, the Computer History Museum has reserved one honor for a distinguished circle of individuals who have advanced the field of computing.
So I figured that if I could start on the ground floor with other people, then I'd have a chance to get ahead.
And that was what led me to write the first compiler back in 1952.
And it was set up as a crusade rather than to make money.
The CHM Fellow Awards recognize technology pioneers, legends, and unsung heroes who have illuminated our world and propelled humanity forward.
The semiconductor industry has made bigger changes in a few decades than printing has over a few centuries.
When these things actually start to connect, you get the wow effect.
Democracy, freedom, prosperity, they all stem from technological innovation.
We've got to make a society that will last, that is sustainable as a society.
That's one of the reasons I developed my computer and gave it away. I wanted to help that revolution go forward.
If every one of us does our job well, it'll all go very interesting.
When the ideas start, they are fragile and they're new. And most people don't understand them. And the things that are fragile need to be protected.
They are the dreamers who imagine beyond what is, the disruptors who challenge convention, the builders who transform our world. They are the history makers who inspire us all to keep exploring and creating new ways to shape a better future for everyone.
I don't know about you, but that kind of gives me chills. There's just so much in those words that were just, sort of fundamental to the way of the world, and they resonate so well today. So you, therefore, might be wondering how we select the fellows. And the nominations are open to the public and reflect a diverse range of viewpoints. Final selection is made by a panel comprised of historians, researchers, industry leaders, CHM trustees, and staff, and past fellow award winners. So we invite people to participate. I'd like to thank all of those who participated in this year's selection process and in the committee. I know many in the audience, so let's again thank the committee if I could. Thanks. And also, this evening, we'd like to recognize the fellows who are with us tonight, online as well as in person. And there are a number of you in the room, so I'm going to pick on you and ask you to stand up if I may. Please, I see 4 or 5 that I can just recognize. Alvy, come on, get on your feet. There we go, Federico, all right. It's a wonderful moment. We appreciate you coming as well, so thank you so much for that. Now let's focus on our remarkable 2023 Fellow Award honorees. The effects of our fellows can be felt all around us. Even if you're not a programmer who learned to program with BASIC, you've benefited from the idea that everyone should be able to use a computer. And even if you don't understand the complexities of distributed computing, you're using it every day when you pick up your phone or you look on social media or whatever. You can't get away from it. And even if you don't keep up with the latest in robotics, you probably know someone who's got a robot vacuuming in their house today. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So the work of the fellows has had an even broader impact across many facets of our daily lives, and our 2023 honorees are Rodney Brooks for his advancement of robotics and consideration of its implications for humanity, Barbara Liskov for her practical and theoretical contributions to programming language and system design that continue to shape modern computing, and Thomas E. Kurtz, the co-inventor of the BASIC programming language, which brought the power of computers to beginners around the world, and also the co-inventor of the Dartmouth Timesharing System. I have some great stories about my time visiting the Dartmouth campus in 1982 with a Macintosh, when they put one in front of every student. Wherever there was a pillow, there was a Macintosh. So I personally have just, again, I get crazy about that one. So to help make tonight's celebration possible, I first and foremost want to thank Accenture. We acknowledge Accenture as our headline sponsor. They've been sponsoring this program for 10 years. And they're an extraordinary strategic partner as well. I talked about our OpenCHM initiative. And together, we're working with Accenture and others to innovate this museum into the 21st century, including building what we call our new OpenCHM platform, which will make our world-class collection available to anyone, anywhere. And we're grateful for Accenture's Chief Technology and Innovation Officer, Paul Doherty, who's an active trustee and also a member of the CHM board. And with that, I want to, with special appreciation, introduce Accenture's Senior Managing Director for Data and AI, who's both an incredible partner and also a good personal friend. Tom Sturmer, would you join me on stage? Thanks, Tom.
So welcome. I am honored and humbled tonight to represent both CHM trustee Paul Doherty and the 733,000 people of Accenture, marking the 10th consecutive year of our sponsorship of the Fellows Program and of our broader support of the Computer History Museum. So our relationship with this exceptional institution extends beyond a mere sponsorship. It embodies a shared vision of honoring the past, navigating the present, and crafting a future where technology and human ingenuity harmonize in a rhythm of continuous and at times disruptive advancement. For instance, our collaborative unveiling of the museum's digital twin amid the pandemic epitomized the union of historical preservation with contemporary digital innovation. Our ongoing collaboration has also propelled initiatives like OpenCHM that Daniel mentioned, paving the way for the museum's extensive repository of knowledge and computing artifacts to be accessed by curious minds anytime, anywhere. CHM's mission underscores the importance of honoring the past while inspiring and equipping the minds destined to shape the future of technology. And tonight's honored fellows are quintessential trailblazers whose endeavors have set a momentum, propelling both technology and humanity forward. The remarkable journey to AI-driven machines, to abstract software architectures and elegant programming languages are all possible because we stand on the shoulders of the exceptional fellows that we celebrate today. In this epoch of swift, disruptive technological change, today's homage to our fellows not only acknowledges their contributions, but also mirrors our optimistic anticipation of technology's evolving narrative and its positive resonance on humanity. I take pride in Accenture's sustained collaboration with CHM, embracing our shared duty to steer these transformations and these forces towards a brighter future for us all. And so I extend my heartfelt gratitude to each of you and your unwavering support of this institution and the Computer History Museum. And I thank you for joining us and honoring this year's CHM Fellow Awards program. Dano?
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, it's been terrific. As Tom mentioned, the pandemic kind of put us on our heels, and probably some of you are aware of the way we looked at the Fellows program and scheduled it over 4 quarters. And it was great support from Accenture that allowed us to do that, and then to, of course, both have a program that was indicative of the mission and purpose and goal we have of reaching people everywhere, but also to celebrate this program in a unique and exceptional way. So thanks so much. And now, it is my great pleasure to introduce my co-host for this evening. As an executive, she led innovation and corporate responsibility at Intuit. And she's also a CHM trustee who's been doing an exceptional job of helping us on many, many fronts. So I'd like to have you join me and offer a warm welcome to Eileen Fagan. Eileen?
Thanks, Daniel. I'm so happy to be with you as we celebrate our 2023 Fellows. It's an honor to be able to stand here and help share their inspiring lifetime achievements with the whole world.
It's amazing, and Eileen is the former software engineer and leader for innovation and transformational change. You're the ideal co-host for the program tonight, so thanks for joining me.
Speaking of joining, I want to welcome each of you who are joining us here this evening, both those in the room and those who are joining via the broadcast. As we listen to the stories of our fellows together, I think you will recognize the profound impact they have had on all of our lives. And we encourage you to reflect on what that impact has been and how it can inspire each of us for the future. Please add your voice to the conversation on Facebook and Instagram via the hashtag CHMFellows.
Yes, and we have some amazing people who will help us with the celebration of our fellows this evening. To start us off, we have a reflection from 3 members of the CHM community. If I could ask for the video, please.
Rod Brooks, Thomas Kurtz, and Barbara Liskov, they all simplified the field. They all did things that had a big impact in simplifying the field. And the consequence of simplification is that they extended the reach of computing from a very narrow community to a broader circle. And that, of course, had the impact ultimately of democratizing the computing world.
We can proactively, notice the extraordinary people and lift the histories so that people see themselves from all over the world, that they belong in this industry and that they've been part of creating it the whole time.
In every case, they took on a bold challenge that people thought was impossible. And so I would encourage anyone who thinks there's something in this world that could be fixed or something that could be better, to take it on head first and look to these innovators that you see on stage and others as your inspiration that it can be done. In fact, that's the only way it ever is done.
I love that. Thank you, John, Megan, and Steve, for those inspiring words. What a great way to start. So now we'll begin the presentation, actually, of the 2023 Fellow Awards. Thank you, Daniel. This evening, I'm honored to introduce our first 2023 Fellow and to share some of his amazing accomplishments. Dr. Rodney Brooks has dedicated his life to pushing the boundaries of artificial intelligence and robotics. Renowned for his groundbreaking work in robot learning and behavior-based robotics, his career has been a testament to relentless innovation. As a co-founder of Rethink Robotics, he engineered manufacturing robots like Baxter and Sawyer, redefining the landscape of automation for businesses both large and small. His contributions include new methods of robot perception, enabling machines to sense and interact with their environment in ways previously unimaginable. Rod's research has also influenced applications in both healthcare and autonomous vehicles, among other things. His visionary leadership and dedication have catalyzed the growth of the robotics industry, inspiring the next generation of engineers and scientists. Rod has left an indelible mark on the field, and his legacy continues to shape the future of robotics. Drawing from our very own CHM oral history program, let's hear from Rod in his own words.
The greatest impact on me was 2001: A Space Odyssey, when that came out. I was a mid-teenager by then, and I just loved 2001. I loved the computer. It was a murdering psychopath, but apart from that small problem, the idea of artificial intelligence and this vision of the future, this intelligent computer was just fantastic. My main field has been robotics, and in the 80s, people were trying to build robots that could move for the first time, but it took the mainframe and 15 minutes of computation to move every meter. And then I was looking at insects, and insects could fly around and avoid things and attack each other and find a human and suck their blood. And they didn't have that many neurons, so I started to try to figure out how to make simple creatures that could do simple things in the world. But in real time, I wrote a paper which was published in the Journal of the British Interplanetary Society. And it was called Fast, Cheap, and Out of Control, a Robot Invasion of the Solar System. And the idea was, instead of, as people were then working on trying to build a big rover that was going to be a many, many billion-dollar mission, I suggested that we send small rovers to other planets. We teamed up with David Scott, who'd been commander of Apollo 15. Once we had someone who'd been to the moon, we could talk to anyone we wanted. And we built a prototype rover for the moon. So we did a test flight out at Edwards Air Force Base with them, simulating landing, being out of communication for 4 days. And then NASA was very upset with this. You can't be, that's our job. And out of that, the little project we'd started at JPL and wasn't going to go anywhere got added to the 1996 launch, which landed on July 4th, 1997, and that was Sojourner, the rover the first rover on the surface of Mars. During the 80s and 90s, we were building robots, and we started the company which became iRobot. It was actually started as a space exploration company. But then, the Roomba is in tens of millions of robots. So I think that's sort of a surprise. I actually built something that turned into that many things. I think today the misunderstanding is that you just need more intelligence or more learning, and robots will be able to do anything. And that's just not so. Things take a long, long time. And we're not going to have robots, humanoid robots, that can walk around and do everything that people can do. And I think that, it's part of the hype cycle of, well, that's what's going to happen next. We're going to have humanoid robots doing all factory work or all warehouse work. And it is so much harder than people believe.
We'll get to hear a little bit more from Rodney himself in a few minutes. Now, to present Rodney Brooks with the 2023 Fellow Award is Cynthia Brazil. Cynthia is herself a trailblazing figure in the field of robotics and artificial intelligence, who has continually pushed the boundaries of human-robot interaction. As the founder of Jibo Inc., she brought to life one of the world's first social robots, further blurring the lines between humans and robots. Her career has been defined by her commitment to making technology more approachable and more accessible while inspiring the next generation of innovators to dream big. She was a doctoral student under Rodney Brooks and is currently Dean for Digital Learning at MIT's Open Learning, as well as Associate Professor at MIT's Media Lab. She has been involved here at CHM with our work on Tech for Good, and as well as Women in Computing. Please welcome Cynthia Brazil.
Rodney Brooks has revolutionized robotics. Prior to his work, people assumed that robots needed to create an internal representation of the world with top-down algorithms controlling actions. As a new graduate student in Rod's group, I remember him showing us videos of desk-sized wheeled robots navigating very slowly around carefully designed rooms with geometric objects with surfaces painted different colors. And then Rod would ask us rhetorically, how much computation do you think a fly has? Now, consider the ordinary fly's ability to perform very complex motor coordination, to buzz about in completely unstructured environments in real time with adaptiveness and agility to evade your attempts to swat at it. This intelligent behavior was far out of reach of robotics of the day. Nature, not symbols, was Rodney's muse. He pioneered the subsumption architecture and behavior-based robotics. His was a bottom-up approach, connecting action much more tightly to sensing, championing the idea that intelligent behavior could emerge from simple, interacting, specialized behaviors. At its core, his approach was biologically inspired. The physical embodiment of the robot also played an important role in the intelligence it could express. This foundational concept has transformed the very essence of robotics, moving it from a world of static, pre-programmed machines to one of dynamic, adaptive systems that are capable of flexibly and robustly responding to their environment. As his students, we got a front row seat witnessing his visionary ideas met with intense criticism. On his office door, he posted 3 what can only be described as hostile reviews of his early papers on the subsumption architecture. As these pages yellowed and curled with time, we saw them as badges of valor on the intellectual battlefield. Rod was never satisfied, though, by clever ideas alone. He has always been driven to build robots that could demonstrate the power of ideas in real-world environments so as to not trick ourselves into thinking or skipping the hard problems. We learned how to think and how to build in visionary ways from Rod. And from Rod, we learned intellectual courage. As a leader at MIT, Rod served as the director of the MIT AI Lab before leading its merger with the Laboratory of Computer Science to create CSAIL, where he was served as the founding director. Throughout his career, Rod has continued to apply his work to real-world problems. His company, iRobot, produced the PackBot, saving lives by disarming bombs or helping rescue victims of disaster. His company also revolutionized consumer robotics, creating the Roomba, the most successful home robot, selling over 40 million units worldwide. Rod and his subsequent ventures has created robots that work together with humans safely and helpfully, whether it's manufacturing or in the warehouse. Rod is also an important public intellectual on all things AI. He continues to speak his mind with his characteristic wisdom, wit, and candor. He is fearless, willing to put himself at risk, riding in self-driving cars again and again for over a decade to share his insightful critiques with all of us. His annual prediction scorecard entertains us and also helps us to keep it real in the latest AI hype cycle. He continues to challenge us, questioning conventions both old and new. Rod's legacy is also expressed through the people whose lives he's not only touched but also transformed. He has always been a tremendous advocate of women in AI. His former students in academia and industry are leaders in these fields. In every one-on-one meeting with Rod, he'd start with a question: "Are you happy?" And he would end with two encouraging words: "Do good." Today, more than ever, we need to do good with AI for society and for the planet. So, let's take inspiration from Rod's bold optimism working towards the future. Let's take courage for his willingness to go against the grain and not be trapped by existing paradigms. Let's follow his example of staying in touch with the practicalities and constraints of the real world. Let's press forward, following his view of the future of technology to be both positive and grounded, veering neither towards utopian nor apocalyptic prognostications. Robotics and artificial intelligence can be a force for good if we proceed carefully and responsibly as we create and use intelligent robots that make the world better for everyone. So, Rodney Brooks, on behalf of the CHM, it is my distinct honor to present you with the 2023 Fellow Award for the advancement of robotics and its consideration implications for humanity.
Well, thank you, and I must say that, well, I'm going to depart from this for a second. You know, people have said, what's it like having a career in robotics and AI? And I tell them, well, you know, I started out with a degree in pure mathematics, and I think I'm going to be remembered as a vacuum cleaner salesman. So I'm incredibly, you know, I'm honored, and it was an unexpected honor. And I want to thank the Computer History Museum for getting me above vacuum cleaner salesman, the nominator, the selection committee, and I want to also congratulate the other two inductees. I've known Barbara Liskov for 40 years and had the privilege of serving on the faculty with her at MIT for 26 years. She was a legend at MIT when I got there, and remains so. She sets high standards for research excellence, support of students, junior faculty, and she really provided leadership by example. Now, I've never met Thomas Kurtz, but I certainly knew of his work when I was in high school. BASIC was my second computer language. In fact, it was the existence of BASIC that let me understand that computer languages were not built into the hardware, but were software themselves. And that was a light bulb moment, so thank you, Professor Kurtz. And I want to thank my family who's here, friends, colleagues, and students, PhD students who've come to celebrate with me tonight. Now, I'm receiving this award for the advancement of robotics and considerations of its implications for humanity. So I want to talk about those two topics briefly now. And the first is to get to my word that we'll talk about. I grew up in Adelaide, Australia, and from an early age I was trying to build things. When I was around 8 or 9 years old, my parents gave me two American books from the How I Wonder series. One was titled Electricity, and one was entitled Robots and Electronic Brains. And these books captivated me. So I started building circuits, and then not knowing any better, I started trying to build my interpretation of what computers were. This is around 62. And my materials were batteries, flashlight bulbs, strips of metal cut from food tins, nails, and wire. And I could build electromagnets from wire and nails, and then make primitive electromagnetic relays, which is the simplest of switching circuits. And I was fearless in my ambition. So I was able to build machines that could play games like tic-tac-toe. I wanted to build robots, but I wasn't a good enough mechanical engineer. But I did build a neural learning machine with chemical cells in a plastic ice cube tray. None of the adults around me understood anything I was doing, besides knowing that I was obsessed, and my friends just thought I was weird. But I think what I did as a child fashioned me for the whole of my life. It fashioned how I approached both science and engineering. Those childhood experiences led me to be fearless about trying things for which I could see a path to success. Not magical things, but things that I could break down into the steps that needed to be done, and it didn't matter if those around me couldn't see it. It just made me fearless. And that's my one-word piece of advice that the museum asked me to give: fearless. When you can find a way to reason through a problem and see how to build something that others can't see. Now, after I got a PhD in computer vision at Stanford, I was able to get to robotics, which had always been my passion, and students like Cynthia and also Holly Yanko, who's here in the audience, joined me in that passion. And we always tried to build robots that were different from what others thought robots could be at the time. Small walking robots, as we saw, that helped inspire the robots that now populate Mars. Swarms of small robots, Holly's robot wheelchairs, humanoid robots that interact with people socially, and with compliant arms that let them interact with the same sorts of tools that humans use. And yes, home robot vacuums. Robotics and AI have been very, very good to me. But, and here we're getting to the other part of the citation, consideration of its implications for humanity. We all know how much hype there is around AI, hype around robotics, self-driving cars, hype around AI from deep learning to generative AI. And ever since the mid-1970s, as I've been involved in AI professionally, I've seen wave after wave of hype. It's not new. The hype has always been there. Raised expectations and broken promises. Some of you might remember the forecast of how it was all over for human intelligence in the mid-90s when Garry Kasparov, the world chess champion, was beaten by a computer, Deep Blue. It wasn't over for humans. And by the way, Barbara worked on computer chess when she was a grad student. It's been around a long time. Sorry. So, I'm sorry, Barbara. Over the last few years, I've been thinking about why people, sensible, hard-nosed people, fall so in love with new developments in AI and believe, to me are outrageous promises. And these promises are not made with the fearlessness that I outlined above. The hype notice may be fearless about what they promise, but they're fearless without knowing a path to their overpromises. So my fearless word is a little deeper. Be fearless about figuring things out, and then embark when you see the path to the goal. My thinking about the hype has led me to talk about the 7 deadly sins of AI prediction. One of them was coined by Arthur C. Clarke about any technology, actually. He said that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, and that applies to AI. So in the last 12 months, when people saw ChatGPT generating just amazingly good English and other languages, responses to questions, people had no way of understanding its limitations, of which there are many. So too quickly, generative AI took on the air of being able to do anything as magical as any possible technology. Another deadly sin is that of exponentialism. An earlier fellow of the Computer History Museum, Gordon Moore, for 50+ years, we've lived with Moore's Law, where everything got twice as good in silicon computing every couple of years, just like clockwork. Now Moore's Law is over, at least the economic version. 3 nanometer featured transistors cost twice as much as a 5 nanometer featured transistor. But that's unleashed a golden age of new computer architectures. But the old exponential is dead. We all tend to think, we've been trained by Moore's Law for 50 years, that technologies will just continue to double in capacity, just like clockwork. And I know Steve Jurvetson's in the audience. Steve, sorry. Even if they do so for a little time, they don't continue forever. They change form. And so I've been comparing AI and robotics predictions to those 2 sins and 5 others. And I've been trying to get people to think more carefully about how they evaluate wild claims, so that so many of us make in our moments of irrational exuberance. But make no mistake, I'm still an optimist, and I still think I'm fearless, and I'm currently at my 6th startup, working hard on a new class of robots. There's much more invention to be done and fun to be had. So thank you all, and do good.
We'll all do our best to do good. Thank you for that, Rodney, and congratulations. You know, this overhead projector technology, I think it was invented for the bowling alley originally, the overheads, and that's where we got the teleprompters. They do fail every now and then, the pins fall over, so anyway, thanks. So let's now celebrate our next fellow and his distinguished career. Dr. Thomas E. Kurtz made profound impact in the field of computing, which continues to resonate today. Obviously, he's best known as the co-creator of BASIC programming language, a pioneering achievement that has introduced countless individuals to the world of computer programming and playing a pivotal role in making computers more accessible to non-specialists. It was my first programming language, not that I'm a computer scientist. As a computer scientist, educator, and visionary, Tom's commitment to nurturing the next generation of computer scientists and his tireless effort in curricula development have really transformed computing from something for only a select few into a friendly, easy-to-use code for millions, a new way of seeing the world that anyone could participate in. And as his role in the co-creator of leading the development of the Dartmouth Timesharing System, it revolutionized how computers were used in education, laying the foundation for the future of computing in academia. And I'll do a little segue. I took the Macintosh to Dartmouth in 1982, 2 years before Mac came onto the market. I was working at Apple, and 18 months later, there were 3,000 kids that fired those machines up in real time based on that time-sharing system. It was the most amazing thing I'd ever personally experienced in this world of computing, and thanks to Dr. Kurtz for that, along with his co-creator and the Dartmouth community. Overall, Tom's contributions extend beyond the classroom, with his work influencing various aspects of computing and the way we engage with technology in our everyday lives. Now let's hear more in Tom's own words. We have a video.
The Industrial Revolution of the last century changed our civilization's way of life. Today, a second revolution has begun, the computer revolution. In the early days of high-speed computers, man was forced to learn a highly unnatural language to communicate with the machine. We have progressed a great deal since that time. Here at Dartmouth, Professor Thomas Kurtz, director of the Computation Center, and Professor Kemeny, with the help of several undergraduates, have written a language called BASIC, which is ideally suited for communication with the machine. It is a simple combination of ordinary English and algebra, which can be mastered by the novice in a very few hours. He can become quite expert with the language in 2 weeks, and yet he will find there is enough power in the language BASIC to solve the most complicated computer problems.
Most university computing centers, you had to carry your card deck to the central room and then you give them to the counter, and some low-level bureaucrat, you had to plead, I need my results. Very few people were willing to do that, particularly people who weren't in the science division or engineering school. Dartmouth Timesharing was communications driven. They could put the teletype machines anywhere they want on campus and use existing phone lines to connect. That's no problem. And that served to break the barrier, because people didn't have to go over to somebody else and demonstrate their ignorance by not knowing the jargon or something. The thing had come to them. They'd go in, close the door, type away in the computer, making whatever mistakes they felt like making without feeling being condescended upon. It started in 1964 in May. We got our first actual run of the thing. And in June, he gave a series of lectures with live demonstrations. This is what the new world is going to be like. We realized that when we did the Dartmouth Timesharing System, we were trying to reach everybody on campus who wanted to use it. And we would have to simplify the user interface. So Kemeny got the idea of using just ordinary English words, like hello and goodbye, instead of log on, log off. The languages, Fortran, Algol, that type of language, were just too complicated. New languages needed. Kemeny had the idea that all statements in BASIC, not just most, but all of them should start with an English word. And the original BASIC, I think, had about 13 or 15 of these statements in it, all that you'd need to write a simple program. Bringing computing to the people, having a simplified user interface. Then BASIC, a simple language. So if you want to write a program using English words, it's easy to remember. You could do anything you wanted. Nothing was off limits.
Great. And to present Thomas with his award, we have a special video presentation from Bill Gates. As the co-chair of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Bill is a transformative force in the realm of philanthropy and global change. He's been a generous supporter and a longtime friend of CHM as well. Beyond his philanthropic efforts, Bill is, of course, an iconic figure in the technology world. And as the co-founder of Microsoft, he revolutionized the world of business and personal software and now services. And through his private office, Gates Ventures, he continues to have a profound impact on the world by supporting the next generation of innovators, thinkers, and in particular, clean energy. So now let's hear from Bill Gates.
Well, I share the Computer History Museum's commitment to showing us the history of technology so we can shape it to drive a better future. I'm really pleased to be part of the 2023 Fellow Award Program, and in particular, to speak about Thomas Kurtz and his great contributions. Well, BASIC, which stands for Beginner's Algebraic Symbolic Instruction Code, was invented by Kemeny and Kurtz to make it easy to program. It was an interpretive language. They used line numbers so you could edit different parts of the program. And they tried to make it very approachable so you could do simple things very quickly. And they put it together with the idea of time sharing so that a lot of people could connect up to the same computer and feel like, okay, they had the whole computer available to them. So the basic language and then time sharing was a very different way to provide computing, not this thing where you punched out cards and sent them in and had to wait a long time before your program either ran or didn't run. The invention of BASIC affected my career a lot because it was when my high school got this teletype connected to a time-sharing computer from GE that ran BASIC that a lot of us were fascinated in trying to figure it out. So all my early programming was in BASIC. And then later, when Paul and I create Microsoft, we decide, let's put a form of BASIC onto this low-cost kit computer, which was first the Altair, but then we put it on all the different personal computers. And the structure of BASIC let us add new statements, extend it in rich ways, things like music and drawing. But it was built off the original ideas of BASIC from Kemeny and Kurtz. For many people, BASIC's the first language they learn, and it gives them a sense of, okay, how do computers work? And, so it's a huge thing. It keeps evolving. But the basic idea of approachability, extensibility, still very important, even though the computer's a tool, letting people program and understand how it works. The approachability of BASIC and time sharing began what the PC and the internet took to a whole new level, that computers can be an approachable tool for the individual. Thomas E. Kurtz, on behalf of the Computer History Museum, it's my distinct honor to present you the 2023 Fellow Award for the co-invention of the BASIC programming language, which brought the power of computers to beginners all around the world, and the invention of the Dartmouth Timesharing System. Congratulations.
Well, I'm sorry to say that Tom was unable to travel to tonight's ceremony. So Tom and his wife Aggie are joining us now from their home online in New Hampshire. So we'll all give a little wave and congratulate Tom and thank him so much for his contributions really has, it was kind of the spark that lit so many different things in this industry. And here to accept the Fellow Award on behalf and to share his prepared remarks is his granddaughter and data scientist, Sarah Mazik. Sarah, would you join me on stage?
Good evening. First of all, thank you to the Computer History Museum for this recognition. It's a great honor to be included in the ranks of the museum's fellows, people who I have long admired. Next, I'd like to thank my family for their enduring support all of these years. Finally, 2 special thank yous are due. One to Dartmouth President John Kennedy, a brilliant Renaissance man who led the effort with me. And next, to generations of students at Dartmouth around the world who have kept the basic flame alive for over 60 years. The museum is a place for telling stories, so here's mine. In 1951, I was a statistics graduate at Princeton. That summer, Foreman Acton invited several graduate students to the UCLA campus to learn how to use this exciting new thing, a computer. While there, I wrote my first computer program, which calculated certain statistical quantities. In 1956, I came to the beautiful Dartmouth campus from Princeton after being interviewed by Math and Astronomy Department head, John Kennedy, who was formerly Albert Einstein's assistant at the Institute for Advanced Study. I loved this part of the country. Even before I got here, it was decided that I would be a liaison person for the math department to the new MIT computer. That meant that once a week, I collected punch cards for the programs that Dartmouth people had prepared, take the train to Boston, go to MIT, and submit the programs. Later in the afternoon, I picked them up and returned to Dartmouth. This was once a week. You calculate the turnaround time. I did it once, but I have forgotten what it was. In 1959, we got the LG P30 computer, and I no longer had to travel to Boston once a week. At that time, we built our first computer center, a room in the Bradley Hall Math Building. Kennedy and I collaborated on a number of projects. Kennedy was a big thinker and a true intellectual dynamo. One of our chief concerns was based on what journalist C.P. Snow termed the two cultures problem. In our society, it seemed as though there was a big dividing line between science-oriented people and humanities-oriented people. Since Dartmouth is a liberal arts college, we both felt it was important to try to bridge this divide and encourage our undergraduates, our English and history majors, for example, to all have a go at computing. Thus was born the need for a simple and easy-to-learn programming language. But it wasn't only the language. It was the mode of operation of mainframe computers of the day as well, tediously entering a program into punch cards, submitting your deck, then waiting for the output. It could take a day or two to get results back from the computer. Hardly interactive. To solve that problem, between 1963 and 64, we developed the Dartmouth Timesharing System, or DTSS, the world's earliest successful large-scale time-sharing system, and the system for which our basic programming language was developed. Created mostly by a small number of Dartmouth students, DTSS began operations on May 1st in 1964. That fall, hundreds of freshmen began to use the system via 20 teletype terminals around campus. By 1971, DTSS was supporting over 30,000 users around the eastern seaboard, and even more in Montreal, Canada. Another big difference was that time on the computer for programming in BASIC was free. There was no accounting for people's use of the machine. These were giant, expensive machines, and time was money. At Dartmouth, any student could walk into the computer center and sit down at a teletype and use the time-sharing system. No one will ask if he is solving a serious research question, doing his homework the easy way, playing a game of football, or writing a letter to his girlfriend. Soon, teletypes were installed in virtually all areas of campus, departments and dorms. BASIC really took off in the microcomputer era, where it became a must-have feature of personal computers in the early days, since users so often had to write their own software. In summary, I think two fundamental principles guided Kemeny and Mai's work. The system should be extremely easy to use for the casual programmer, and second, when there is a choice between simplicity and efficiency, choose simplicity. To the extent that there has been a magical formula for BASIC success, I think that's it. My one word of advice for a young person getting started in their career is mathematics, since math is so fundamental to human progress. From Pythagoras to string theory, mathematics has been the key to understanding our world, and now in the future. Thank you again for this wonderful honor.
Thank you, Sarah, and congratulations, Thomas. As one of those people who actually did programming on cards, I am eternally grateful to have used BASIC later. I am honored to introduce our third and final fellow of the evening, Dr. Barbara Liskov, a visionary who has shaped the course of computer programming languages, software design, and distributed computing with her extraordinary career. She is the celebrated creator of the Liskov substitution principle, a fundamental tenet of object-oriented programming. Her groundbreaking work has not only laid the foundation for many software systems, but has also elevated the principles of modularity, extensibility, and robustness in software design. And as a former programmer, I can also tell you we wouldn't be doing any of the things that we can do right now without those principles. So, beyond her profound impact on the theoretical underpinnings of computer science, Barbara's contributions to the development of CLU programming language and the Venus operating system set new standards for programming languages and distributed computing, ultimately influencing generations of programmers and system designers. She was also among the first women to earn a doctorate in computer science in the United States, and only the second woman to receive the Turing Award. Barbara's That's worthy of applause, I agree. Barbara's exceptional career has not only advanced the boundaries of computer science, but has also inspired a new generation of technologists to explore and excel in a field historically dominated by men. Her dedication to research, education, and mentorship has created a legacy of innovation and inclusivity. And for that, I thank you. Drawing from CHM's oral history program again, let's hear more from Barbara in her own words.
It's actually very hard to explain what I do to a non-computer scientist, because my work is in the underpinnings of how software is developed and how systems are built. I got interested early on in the problem of how to construct software systems so they actually worked. And that led to the invention of something I call data abstraction, which is one of the major ways that people develop software today. And basically, this work has to do with breaking programs up into modules that can be built independently, reasoned about independently. You break the problem up into pieces, and this is really the way that software is built as well. In addition to that work, I got interested in the problem of distributed computing in the days when it was more like a dream than a reality. But I also got interested in the problem of how to produce storage systems that didn't lose information in the presence of attacks or hardware failures or other things like that. The way you do it is through replication by having multiple copies of the information, but it's tricky because you have to make sure that those copies are all in sync in spite of whatever is going on. The early work had to do with just failures, because that was the big problem in the 80s when I did that work. And then in the 90s, we started working on attacks, malicious attacks, which are a big problem today. And that led to a couple of protocols that are very basic in the way that storage systems are organized. Everything we do is distributed. You know, when you use your cell phone, that's a distributed system. When you use Facebook, that's a distributed system. Twitter is Google, everything is distributed. And then sitting behind the scenes is, in fact, just some sort of complicated replicated algorithm like what we've been talking about that's making sure that all your data is not being lost. And then the whole experience of my jobs with, doors closing and doors opening. And I think this is what careers are often like. And you just have to sort of figure out what the right path for you is. And it's very important to do it ethically. It was just so much fun. I found I loved computer science, I loved programming. These problems were so interesting, it was clear they were really important. And it was just, I like understanding things, I like inventing things. It was just like a perfect fit. And I was never thinking about awards or anything like that. I was just interested in the problems and finding out elegant solutions, and it was fun.
Here to present Barbara with her award is another exceptional woman in computer science, Diane Green. A luminary in the world of technology, she co-founded VMware, a company that revolutionized virtualization technology and transformed the way we manage data centers today. As the CEO of Google Cloud, she was instrumental in driving cloud computing innovation and helping businesses harness the power of the cloud. Named one of America's top 50 women in tech by Forbes, she is an inspiration for countless women working to make their mark in technology. She is currently a member of the AP Mahler, Maersk, and Stripe boards, the co-chair of the UC Berkeley School of Engineering Advisory Board, and a former chair of the MIT Corporation. She has been, and we are lucky to have her be, an active CHM advisor, supporter, and friend of the museum. Please join me in welcoming Diane Green.
As we just heard, Barbara Liskov's interested in problems, and she enjoys inventing solutions to them. So many people notice problems. The particular problems Barbara noticed and chose to attack and solve were those required to scale software systems up many orders of magnitude. Her problems and solutions prove foundational, and they underlie today's world of global cloud computing and the massive LLMs trained on the world's digital data. Barbara was visionary in being drawn to the power of scaled software, and her brilliance and practicality have been vital to what computers and softwares can do today. As we heard, she started with chess and then Fortran. However, she wanted to do more than build software. She saw the leverage in making it easy for everyone to build software. She stood back, she saw the limitations, and once identified, she invented how to solve those limitations. As we heard earlier, through data abstraction, now so abstracted that we can program with natural language, distributed computing, we can initiate a transaction on one side of the world and atomically complete it on the other side, and fault handling. Human errors, hardware errors, and malicious attacks, she developed the protocols for that. It all seems so obvious now, but in the second half of the 1900s, few even appreciated what was possible with a computer, let alone saw clearly what the constraints were. and developed solutions that proved to be a part of the foundational underpinnings of every software system today. In thinking about my comments for this evening, for some reason, management guru Peter Drucker kept coming to mind. I transitioned from software engineering to management, and he was the one that laid the foundations of modern management. And through doing so, he pushed the limits of organizational achievement. And I think not dissimilar, Barbara Liskov laid the foundations for modern computer systems, and she pushed the limits of organizational achievement by leveraging technology and she did this while that technology was advancing at an exponential rate. Her focus on software and systems has proved to be a key enabler for one of the most revolutionary and valuable tools humanity's developed. I was at MIT in the late 70s, and already she was well known. Then I went on to, I was at grad school at Berkeley and read many of her papers. And after that, I have a personal anecdote where in 1991, Barbara invited my husband and myself to a small dinner party at her house outside of Boston. And I was pretty nervous, but in her completely down-to-earth, casual way, she showed us her unusual historic house. She showed us her vegetable garden. She and her husband partnered to service a delicious home-cooked meal while attending to their son working on his high school homework. And it was just incredibly reassuring and confidence-building to meet a woman who had made such significant contributions and see firsthand how nice and approachable she was. And I spent the last 3 years at MIT, and what Rod said is just so true. She's a leader, and I wasn't at all surprised to hear him say how high she sets the bar for everybody. She's just a truly exceptional, grounded person and role model, and let us all thank and congratulate Dr. Liskov for her seminal contribution to the defining tool of our modern era. So Barbara, on behalf of CHM, it's my distinct honor to present you with the 2023 Fellow Award for practical and theoretical contributions to programming language and system design that continue to shape modern computing. Congratulations.
The first thing I want to say is thanks so much, Diane, for that wonderful introduction. I really appreciate it. It was great. So I'm delighted to be here and to be inducted into the CHM, a wonderful institution. And of course, it's really wonderful to have my contributions recognized in this way. I want to start by acknowledging all the help I had along the way. Everything I did was collaborative. And I had wonderful colleagues, and I had wonderful students. And some of my students are here today. I'm very happy to see them. And in fact, that work on replication that was discussed, one of my students here today, Brian Oakey, was the key player in developing the first of our replicated algorithms. I also had the support of my husband and my family, and I want to say thank you to all of these people who really enabled my career. I feel that my career started with a lucky break in 1961. I had just graduated from Berkeley with a degree in math, and I went to look for a job. And I was offered a job as a programmer at a time when I didn't know that computers existed. And I took that job, and this way I found a field that I loved and also a field that really fit my skills. So I worked for a couple of years, and then I went on to get a PhD at Stanford, working in AI with John McCarthy. As Rod said in his talk, my thesis was about chess endgames, a very hard problem at the time. When I finished my PhD in 1968, I got lucky again in an odd sort of way. I did not get a faculty offer that I thought was acceptable. And therefore, I had to go back and work in industry. And I chose to work at the MITRE Corporation, which was where I had worked on my first job, only now I was working as a researcher rather than a programmer. And this turned out, although it was upsetting at the time, this turned out to be a really good thing to do, because I was also switching out of AI into systems, computer systems, which has been my main area of research ever since. And by working as a researcher in industry, I was able to focus on that change in direction without all the distractions that you have as a faculty member, where you have to teach classes and you have students to worry about and so forth. So it turned out to be a good move, even though it wasn't what I wanted in the beginning. So I worked at MITRE for 4 years, and then I moved to MIT in 1972. And once I got to MIT, because of the work I'd done at MITRE and the work that had gotten me into program methodology, my career really took off. By the time I got to MIT, I knew what I was doing, I knew what I wanted to work on, and I was really ready to go. So here we are today in 2023. And when I look back on what's happened in my lifetime, it is absolutely astounding where we are and what has come out of the work that I and so many other people have done. We have transformed the way people live. And so our field has had a huge impact on people, and it's mostly been for the good. Not entirely, some of it is sort of bad, but anyway, mostly the impact has been for the good. And you know, a good example of this is just to think about what it would have been like during the pandemic if we hadn't had the systems that we have and we had all been isolated in our houses. So now I want to talk a little bit about what's going on for the future. And I'm very interested in what Rod had to say today. I look at what's happening with AI with some trepidation, but from a systems perspective, there are really interesting problems developing there. Technically, there are issues arising that many of them, I think, do have technical solutions, and this represents a real opportunity for those of us in the systems area to think about the things that we can do to mitigate some of the problems. So I hope as we move on, and then furthermore, another thing that's happening is I can think of bad things that might happen, but I can also see a lot of good applications coming up, and those will be very useful for humanity. I hope as we move on that we pay attention to some of the problems that might arise and try to think about what we can do to help there. For example, let's make sure that those applications that we develop do not have within them the implicit bias that was present in so many of the early applications based on AI. And then another thing I think we could do is think about technical ways to avoid the problems of misinformation that we see spreading over the internet. That's a big problem for us today. So, in conclusion, and what I was saying there at the end was there are the problems that I think we can develop technical issues for, and then there are those where there are larger issues at stake and we're going to need governance and laws and so forth. And there I think we should be thinking about the ways that we can help and helping others to figure out how to solve those problems. I'm going to close with the advice for the next generation. As you prepare for your career, of course, what you want to do is get deeply into your field so you understand it very well. But it's also really important to have breadth. So you should get as broad an education as you can. An important reason for this is that you don't actually know when you start out in your career what's going to be interesting to you down the road and where you might like to go. And by getting a broad education, then when you change your mind about the direction you're going in, or some unexpected but desirable opportunity comes your way, you'll be in a much better position to take advantage of it. Thanks again for the award, and thank you.
Rodney, Thomas, Barbara, thank you for your lifetime of work and impact on computing, which has changed the world in significant, enduring, and positive ways. I love do good. Thank you for your inspiring messages, including your one word of advice: fearless, mathematics, and breadth. Through the beauty and power of mathematics, we can strive to be fearless, stay open to the full breadth of opportunities around us.
There's a lot of life experience and wisdom in those three words, and we're so pleased to honor each of you and to capture and share your stories so that your examples and insights will inspire future generations.
Let's give a final big round of applause to our 2023 CHM Fellows.
Well, here we go. We salute our 2023 fellows and recognize them as legends and unsung heroes who inspire us all to shape a better future. Here at CHM, we believe that technological progress is most meaningful when it's in service to human progress, and if it's applied ethically, and when it's expanding across access to opportunity for all, like the distinguished pioneers we've honored here have done tonight. Thank you, Eileen, for hosting this event with me tonight, and thank you, everyone, for being with us to hear the stories of these inspirational innovators. We look forward to working with you to create a better future for generations to come. And thank you all for coming tonight, and have a good evening. Right.